Hi, I'm Jocelyn. Welcome to or back to my channel. To me, there is a very strong divide in readers in general. You have people who only read popular books because that's all that they know of, that's all they hear good reviews about, and then there are all the other books that never get read because no one knows about them. And I want to bring some awareness to some of the low-level jewels out there. Now, some of you may have heard of these, and if so, fantastic. But all of these books, the ones that I think are a little bit more popular and the ones that are not as popular that I want you guys to look into, all of them are books that I think are underrated. The first book is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book is amazing and it was very, very popular for a very long time. The book came out, there's a movie adaptation, both are amazing. This book follows Star, and she is in the car with one of her friends. They're both black and they get pulled over and the police officer shoots and kills her friend. So the story follows her struggling internally as well as externally with how people are treating her differently because she lives in a black neighborhood with lots of different gangs running around and there's a lot of violence, but she goes to a primarily white prep school. So she has kind of two sides of her, and I think that's really relatable to a lot of African Americans in America today, because you have kind of two sides and a switch that you have to flip. You have your white side and your black side, and you have to be white with your white friends and black with your black friends. And I think that's something that this book does a really good job of addressing. If you have read this book, seen the movie, whatever, and you enjoyed it, then I recommend Dear Martin by Nick Stone. This book is really good as well. It follows a similar narrative, but there's a little bit more in the beginning before the shooting happens. This follows Justice, and he is at a white school. He has another black friend who also attends that school, and they both kind of struggle through the same things of having two sides, so to speak. And Justice begins to write letters to Martin Luther King Jr. saying, I know you had this dream, but I don't know if it's come true or not yet or not. Things are better, but they're not great. And I think this story has a really impressive narrative and is also extremely relatable to the African American teenager, adult, child, anyone. And it's also, both of these books especially are really good to read for non-black people who want to be allies and want to understand the black experience in America a little bit more. So I definitely recommend both of these two books. This one's much more popular and this one is underrated, and they are both amazing. This next set of books are both series, and the first one that I want to talk about is the Lunar Chronicles. I love the Lunar Chronicles so much. And I think that these are definitely a much more popular series, but they follow a fairy tale sci-fi narrative. Each book, the main character of that book is kind of based off of a fairy tale. So like Cinder is based off of Cinderella. I really like this book because it takes the classic fairy tale, but it's a retelling of fairy tales, and I love fairy tale retellings, which is why the book series that I think that you will enjoy if you enjoy the Lunar Chronicles is the Dorothy Must Die series. Now, I will say, when I first saw it, I was a little put off by the title, but I'm so glad that I did get it and I read it. It is actually a really good series. It's not a retelling of The Wizard of Oz because it actually takes place afterwards. So the main character, Amy, she lives in Kansas, and all of a sudden one day, there's a storm and she gets swept up and taken to Oz. And what we see is in Oz, it's not how it was left, how we assume it was left after Dorothy left. Dorothy has come back and she is reigning terror. The Wicked Witch of the West and her crew, they are the heroes because Dorothy and Glinda are evil and controlling the munchkins and controlling all of the creatures of the land. Really enjoyed all of the little snippets that were left in this book, in this series, that related back to the original Wizard of Oz. So, if you enjoyed the Lunar Chronicles, I think you'll also enjoy Dorothy Must Die. For this next set of books, I'm going to take you back a little bit. This is technically a children's book, but it's really just a wonderful read for anyone, any age. It's a great story that I think that everyone needs to hear. And that book is Wonder. I truly adore this book. It is such a sweet, sad but happy and joyful story. that I think will touch everyone's heart, and I think that everyone just needs to stop and think about the types of things that are addressed in this book, the disabilities and the stigmas around people with disabilities, how we look at people differently when really we're all human, we're all the same. And I think this book is really just a beautiful, beautifully written book. The book that I think that you will enjoy if you enjoyed this one is Out of My Mind. When I read it the first time, I cried throughout the entire book. It was a heart-wrencher for sure. This book follows a girl in going to school for the first time. She has disabilities and she's in a wheelchair and she's not able to get around as well as she needs to. She's put in all of the classes with other kids with disabilities and difficulties with learning, but she's really, really, really smart, and no one really notices until she joins this club. And then even when she joins the club, she's looked at differently because she's in a wheelchair and because she has disabilities and she can't do everything on her own. And Wonder, you see a lot more of just overall everyone in Augie's life having to think about the way that they are affecting him. So his classmates, his teachers, his parents, his sister. Whereas with Out of My Mind, it is much more heavily pushed towards how the other students perceive her. But this book was so good as well. They are both very similar in their narrative as well as their delivery, but there's some differences, and I think that both are books that everyone should read just to become a little bit more aware of how we treat each other. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to see future content from me. Thanks for watching. Bye!